Hello, welcome to Miniature Realms. My name's Stuart. Back in 1990, Games Workshop brought us Mighty Empires, and in this video we're going to be taking a little nostalgic look at this game and asking the question, could you still use it for Warhammer the Old World today?
Miniature Realms is proudly sponsored by Counter-Attack Bases. They stock a wide range of counters, gaming aids and movement trays for multiple game systems and offer custom items to suit your club, your event or even your podcast or YouTube channel. Check out the link in the video description.
So I was a very young teen when I first started my Warhammer career back in around 1991. This game was already out. I saw plenty of articles in those White Dwarfs I was buying back in that era, and my focus was very much on trying to build one of the many army projects that I wanted to do, both for Warhammer Fantasy and also later for Warhammer 40k and many of the other games that Games Workshop released. I was very much an all-in Games Workshop gamer at that time, and I really wanted this. It was always on my to-do list, always on my shopping list, but it was always a bit further down behind lots of armies and miniatures for those army projects that I was working on or dreaming of working on, which is quite often the reality when you're of a certain age and your budget doesn't stretch to buying the whole armies that you wanted. So the dream of playing a campaign with my fantasy armies was there in using this, but the reality is I didn't always have those armies fully ready, let alone be ready then to take part in a campaign with them. And of course, this game was reinvented a little bit later on. I think 2007 there was a release of a slightly reduced version of the game, but with the plastic hexagons, and then you could buy the plastic hexagons on their own, and then Planetary Empires as well with the more 41st millennium version of it. But this is the original with the card pieces, and you can play it as a standalone game in itself. It features the wonderful box art, which isn't even Games Workshop art. What appeals to me most, especially now, is its completeness. You can paint the miniatures. I will get around to it at some point, but I won't be painting them in this video. I've got too many other priorities, but I do want to start playing this as a game on its own, and also find ways of using it as a small campaign map for some battle march campaigns I'm going to be doing in-house with my son. So let's start by taking a look in the box and seeing what you got back in 1990 for your money.
Sweeping conflict and dark intrigue in the Warhammer world. Essentially, it is a standalone campaign game that you can also use as a campaign system to play with games of Warhammer Fantasy at this time as well, and you can see the branding there on the corner of the box. Incidentally, if anyone knows any cool tricks for removing brown tape without peeling off all the picture underneath, please let me know in the comments. Mighty Empires is a strategic level Warhammer Fantasy game with the players as the rulers of powerful nations. The game has been designed as a self-contained board game for 2 or 3 players that you can expand it with extra tiles. As we enter the box, it obviously doesn't look anywhere near as exciting as it would have back in 1990, but this has been relatively well looked after. It's just old, so the black and white rulebook there and everything else has been nicely bagged up by the previous owner. There's lots of different cards and tokens. You've got your army banner tokens. These are all identical. The only difference is the different colour stickers that you place on the outside. They're quite cool. I might get around to painting these at some point in the future. And there's countless other markers as well, including 112 full colour hexagonal map tiles. There's territory markers, raised territory markers, espionage counters, spell markers, baggage markers, strategic battle cards as well. One of the most important features is obviously the hexagonal map tiles, which later go on to be plastic in later editions. These are all labelled on the back, Highland, Lowland or Coastal. The artwork is quite nice. I quite like it. It's definitely of its era, but again, you see games like this today, like a Catan, which would sort of have a similar vibe to some of the artwork that's going on there. And as you'll see a little bit later on, you can produce quite a pleasing map once they're all put together. All in all, the box is pretty packed full of stuff. I imagine it looked very full when it was still all in its card sheets and all the miniatures were still on their frames as well. So it takes all this bagging up to really pack them down. I think these village models here are really cool, and it could have just been a card counter, and it's very nice to have the actual model. I'm sure it'll look even better painted up as well. And I think all the models are pretty cool actually. These fortress models are really quite nice. I'm looking forward to also getting some paint on these at some point, but I'm going to wait till I can do them all. Otherwise I'll be quite happy playing with them in this state, as sad as that might seem with a busy life. But I just like the miniatures. I think they're fun. There's the ships here. These are quite cool as well. Very much Elizabethan, sort of early modern era galleon ships. Very, very cool. Somewhere in between your little village and your fortress, you have the city miniatures as well. And again, I think they're perfectly charming. They're really, really good for their era, and so many of them in the set as well. You really do get quite a lot, or did get quite a lot for your money. And you also have way more dragons than you'd ever need, but I recommend going and watching the Jordan Sorcery history video on that if you want to know more about the history of the game and how it has developed. I'm not going to spend time covering that here. Then you have your strategic battle cards and the other sets of the army miniatures as well. Of course, these have all been bagged up in the separate player army colours for this game. So let's take a brief look at the rules. We have quite a mighty tome for a game of its size, a whole 64 pages, all softback, all black and white. There's not even a cover to speak of, no glossy cover. It's all cheaper paper compared to modern standards, so this is a little bit tatty, as you'll see in a moment. But this is pure 90s Warhammer, the Games Workshop that I first fell in love with. Pre-Red Era stuff, all of the black and white art, so much of it familiar with first edition Warhammer Fantasy Role Player, third edition Fantasy. It was slightly different in that era still. It started to sort of become a little bit more commercialized as we moved into fourth and fifth edition. So I've got a lot of love for this. Look at that piece of artwork there. I love this original style of artwork. I think it's got a real charm to it. I know it's not modern Warhammer, etc., but it's just really fun. Aside from that, it's mostly unremarkable, probably uses more word count than it would in the modern era to describe the same things, but it's fairly easy to read from cover to cover and get a good idea of what you need to do to play the game. There's a rudimentary contents, but it does a fairly good job actually of breaking it down into the sections to help you find things. It talks a little bit about game setup, and then the realms, the campaign seasons, ships at sea, and then onto the winter season and tabletop battle section afterwards. Each of the pages introduces the different components within the game, which I find really useful. It tends to be standard with board games, even in the modern era as well, so there should be nothing here that surprises anyone, and that it's not so out of date even all those years ago, that it's still very much like when you pick up a game today, a bit like Catan, and you've got your colour pictures inside telling you each of the pieces and what they do within the game and how you use them. So I think game design probably hasn't changed an awful lot in that sense of presentation. Takes you through how to use your game tiles, the hexes, which are probably the most important component in the set, how to place them, the order to do so. A little bit later on you'll see me placing them down. I'm not following those rules there. It is B-roll while I talk at you, so do forgive me for that. But after showing you how to create your realm, you enter the campaign season. You've got your campaign turns, and you're looking at your subsistence levels, depending on how many cities and things you have, scouting ahead, including lots and lots of charts, as you can imagine, for Games Workshop of this era. All the rules for moving around, fighting battles within the game, should you not wish to do them as part of a tabletop thing. Obviously, this is still a standalone campaign system as well, where you don't have to fight the battles yourself, and then rules for your ships at sea, how to fight sieges. Rules for the winter season when you're not out campaigning and you're gathering resources, magic, which is almost a winter gathering mechanism. So equinox magic, spring spells, autumn spells, winter quarters after that as well. So you're really repairing your campaign troops and getting ready for the next season of war. Of course, there's rules for those dragons as well. The Dragon Rage, you can be susceptible to the horrible, dark and terrible beasts of the Warhammer world. Rules for raising revenue and what happens if the settlements are isolated, and how you can make more revenue and spend it. Rules for diplomacy as well, making pacts with other empires, and recruitment, and what to do with older units and reinforcements and characters and all of those things, and even recruiting allies. Rules for recovering raised settlements and fixing them up again, and constructing new things, and also ships and baggages and how to deploy this. So there's loads of stuff that goes on in that winter season, including espionage as well. So there's loads and loads of layers here that will be really useful to use as a tool for a campaign setting for Modern Warhammer the Old World. And there's nothing in this, in the way it's written, that you couldn't use for Warhammer the Old World. Because it's a standalone game within the same setting, you could just use it. It's as simple as that. And there's so many different layers in there that you can choose just to leave parts out, and it doesn't really affect the game, especially if you're using it as a campaign setting rather than using it as a standalone game. You might not want the dragons causing trouble, you just leave that out completely. You might not want the diplomacy side, you want it to be just a campaign battle map in which to move your armies around and fight battles in your club. You really can layer on the different rules, and forgive me for not going into each of those rules here and reading them all out to you. This is not a how to play for Mighty Empires, it's more of a teaser or a taster for you. You can get the rules quite easily online now as a PDF. Those things are very, very old, so you can grab a set, and I know that many people with 3D printers will be printing versions of hex-based tiles. There's loads around as well, and there's different card versions, so there's many ways to play this. You can even print a map and draw hexes on. There's lots of ways to use this old set of rules as a basis for running campaigns within the Warhammer the Old World system. But more importantly, they have a section for tabletop battles, which could be fun to use as well. This isn't going to blow your socks off. This isn't the most detailed set of guidance to use in conjunction with a tabletop war game. It's just not designed to do that at all, but it definitely gives you some interactions with the tabletop war game. And these few pages here are designed to help you transfer the battles that you may fight in the campaign on the hexagons into something that you could approach as a tabletop war game as well. And most of the things that are there are fully compatible, I'd say, with any version of Warhammer Fantasy, in fact many war games as such as well. And there's very little sort of changes of rules that would be needed at all. The most simple and also the most obvious is the terrain table, and there's no reason why you couldn't use this to generate your tables for games of Warhammer the Old World if you wanted to. It's different from what's in the main rulebook, what's in the campaign guides that are already fitted within the Arcane Journal supplements. But if you're running a campaign, there's no reason why you couldn't use this as a basis, and it essentially splits up the different terrain types that are in the game. So you've got your lowland, your coastal, or your river, and the highland as well. So you've got those different areas, and then you can just use them if you're fighting a battle within one of those regions to roll on the table, and then it gives you a type of terrain that you might want to place on that table afterwards. It's really, really simple. So you could roll up a small farmyard comprising of a farmhouse with 1 or 2 outbuildings, bounded by a wall, encompassing an area of no more than 12 by 12. Little things like that, just to help you set your tables and give you some real narrative that draws over from your campaign of Mighty Empires onto your tabletop battles. And it's as simple as that, really. There are other really useful things as well, how to work out setting up a battle. Should there be a pincer type attack on the map, working out how to end the game, how there are winners and losers as well, and looking at things like sieges, how they might work within the game, and just things that are really, really helpful when you're working out how the battle you play on the tabletop affects what happens in the rest of the campaign. And there's some other excellent actions ideas for you along those lines as well, with casualty recovery, what can happen with characters, some simple tables there for their progression or damages and things, battlefield damage and booty, things you could steal from baggage. And obviously there's lots of rules for baggage now within the game of Warhammer the Old World. It's quite easy to link those things across. Rules for taking prisoners as well, which would be really, really fun. There's also fun things that will affect the way your armies move around the world, based on their racial traits. So maybe dwarves in mountainous areas, wood elves in woods, undead and their ability to march maybe a little bit slower. That kind of stuff is just really fun and nice little extras that adds extra flavour to it and makes you think about how your armies will move around on the map. And there's even help with generating some place names, something that you see a lot more today with here's your dwarf name, here's your elf name on social media. Who to think that Priestley and Storman may have been the originators of that kind of stuff. There's a little bit on how to record your campaigns and make a note of it and keep track of it aside from just the map as well. We'll come back to that in a moment. And there's not much detail here, just a few little odds and ends, a few little snippets of rules that will help you think about how you're going to do that. One of the things bearing in mind when I noticed while setting all this up earlier, and this was on a mat, not a shiny wooden table or something, is that these tiles move around a lot. So if you need them set up for a long period of time, that could be slightly problematic, hence the plastic hexagonal versions that clipped together later on, no doubt. I really like this map because it means I don't need to pay anything, it's easy to store, etc. But it would be very easy to disturb the tiles. It was easy enough to disturb them while putting them down. So it's definitely worth bearing that in mind when you're thinking about using this for a long campaign. Maybe a little bit of blue tack on the back might go a long way to trying to keep them in place a little bit more. But for me, that was the only sort of negative around whether this would be the perfect thing to use for Warhammer the Old World. Aside from being able to get a hold of it, I get all of that. That's why I mentioned the rules available online, that you can get hold of hexagonal card tiles or print things yourselves, and there's other ways of doing it. But in terms of a campaign set of rules, it's really good and really simple and works really well. And I can't see a reason if you need a campaign system for the tabletop that it wouldn't be perfect for you. Love all of the online digital versions as well. They do a different thing. If you've got a small, more limited campaign, just a couple of players or 3 players, this is just perfect. And if you've got the opportunity to give it a go, I would highly recommend it. I'll stop now for IP infringement reasons. It's also really annoying to realise right at the end that I probably should have just built it on the C mat I had.
Well, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that little delve into the nostalgia of the early 1990s, well, the very early 1990s, 1990 in fact. I love it. I think it's a really cool thing for me to own. I know there's probably people that are half my age watching this and wondering why on earth I would be interested in having something like that to play with my games of Warhammer the Old World. And that's understandable as well. There are better ways of doing campaigns these days, or more efficient ways rather than better ways of doing campaigns. Renowned Forge had a lovely interview on the channel all about that, and I'll pop a link into that one. That is a fantastic way, a modern way of using an app to have a campaign that you can do for people all over the world. So they are definitely more efficient ways of doing it. But if you want a bit of nostalgia, want something really, really tangible, then a set like that is still really, really fun. And let me know if you've played Mighty Empires, what you thought of it, if you've used it for a campaign tool for your games of Warhammer Fantasy over the years. Do you use it for your games of Warhammer 40k with the Planetary Empires sets of it as well? Equally, I'd be interested in hearing what you think of the 2007 version versus this version. And let me know if you're running campaigns at home or in your clubs, or using something like Renowned Forge for larger campaigns. I always love to hear what people are doing with their campaigns. I've got a plan for using Renowned Forge next year, something to do with the channel, probably to do with the Old Worlders podcast. I haven't told Mark yet. He'll be watching this now and then messaging me and asking what it is, and he'll be super excited and want to start it straight away, but I just don't have time this year. But I've got a plan I think he will like, and hopefully you guys, if you're still watching at this point in the video, you'll like it as well. Do check out the Jordan Sorcery history video on this game. It's far better than any of the little snippets that I've put throughout this. If you're interested in the game, it's a lovely watch. Anything by Jordan is. If you'd like to support me and the channel, continue to make videos like this that are different from the reviewing the latest box sets, or doing the painting tutorials, or the bigger hobby projects, and you want to see that wide range of content on the channel, including other game systems from other manufacturers, the very best way you can do that is to support me, be that via channel memberships. There is one basic level there, but you get a much better deal over on Patreon as well. But the memberships are there for people who don't want to go and sign up and join Patreon. Patreon has 4 tiers. The bottom 2 are very much supporting me, give you lots of little perks, a few more than the channel members, and then the top 2 are all around painting, coaching and tuition at different levels as well. So there's an awful lot there you can do to support me if you can afford to do it financially. If you can't, that is absolutely fine as well. Just commenting below, supporting the channel in that way, liking it really helps as well. And also head over and join us all in the Discord. It's a super friendly place to chat in the Miniature Realms Discord. Thank you very much for the support on my channel sponsor, Counterattack Bases. Loads of gaming aids, loads of Warhammer the Old World stuff there, so do go and check them out. But thank you very much for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you soon.